There we go. So it will be recorded for anyone who was not able to make it, and also just to capture any questions that come that I'm not able to answer today, so I can circle back and answer those questions for you. I am a firm believer in not just throwing out answers that I don't have, and actually following up and giving people the correct information at a later time with actual resources that I can provide if I can't provide it to you today. So I will take questions at the end if there are some. So if there are questions throughout my presentation, please write them down or jot them down, and please reserve them to the end just so that I can get the information out, because I may answer it throughout the presentation, and you may not even have questions at the end. So thank you for respecting the presentation and waiting to the end for that. All right. I would like to first say, giving honor to my organization, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, and my founders, the most triumphant and prestigious founders, most honorable Arizona Ladonna Cleaver Stimmons, Pearl Anna Neal, Myrtle Tyler Faithful, Viola Tyler Goings, and Fanny Petty Watts. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 16th, 1920 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. By the 5 triumphant pearls I just mentioned. These 5 co-eds envisioned a sorority that would directly affect positive change and chart a course of action for the 1920s and beyond, and raise people's consciousness and encourage the highest standards of scholarship achievement and foster a greater sense of unity among its members. These women believe that sorority elitism and socialization overshadowed the real mission of progress organizations had at the time failed to address. And they really believe that the real mission should be more about not so much social mores and ills and prejudice, but more about poverty affecting humanity in general and the Black community in particular. Since its inception, Zeta has continued its steady climb into the national spotlight with programs designed to demonstrate concerns for human condition, both nationally and internationally. And it is because of them I'm here today doing a program such like this on such a big level, on such a big scale. And it is because of my chapter, Omega Theta Zeta in Okinawa, Japan, which was chartered on March 6, 2012, that I am actually doing this program on such a big scale. And I'm excited to be able to provide this opportunity to raise the awareness about sexual assault and show solidarity with survivors in providing this opportunity to really raise the awareness of sexual assault and show solidarity about changing harmful attitudes and behaviors and promote a culture of respect and support. As an organization, we stand in solidarity with sexual assault survivors and victims. So that's why I'm here today. This is the reason why I'm doing it, and I'm excited to do this with you. So who am I? My name is Deshante Dancer, and I am a family law attorney and a domestic violence advocate. I work with an organization called Refugee Women Alliance. They are from Seattle, Washington. And Refugee Women Alliance, they strive to increase safety and well-being of refugee and immigrant women by raising awareness of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking, and providing support to survivors. Through providing social services, advocacy, and family law legal services, ReWell has empowered thousands of women to recover from violence and live healthy lives that are full of possibilities. I'm thankful to impact the lives of the community that I serve with the help of Refugee Women Alliance and the partnership that they and I provide to the community. So that is who I am. And without further ado, let's talk about sexual assault awareness. So sexual assault awareness, let me just slow it. Get a little dry. Thank you. Information about sexual assault awareness and prevention can be seen dating back to the 1960s and 70s, even rolling back further than that to about maybe 1400s, I would say, maybe even further than that, because the exploitation of humans and the hypersexualization of women of color traces back to the 1400s and has influenced the political and cultural understanding of violence and consent. Sexual violence was used as a weapon throughout wars and slavery to control and dehumanize. This horrific legacy led to women of color being the initiators and champions of anti-sexual violence work. Wide social activism for this issue began in the 1970s, and that is when April was designated the month of awareness. So I want to kind of give you kind of a timeline of how sexual assault awareness and kind of sexual assault kind of became a thing of interest, and how it emerged into an issue of topic, and how it became an part of policy. So this is kind of a timeline that I want to focus on for historical purposes. So in the 1900s, many Black women testified before Congress, focusing more so about activism and mobilization addressing sexual assault and violence. Who you see pictured here on this image is Ida B. Excuse me. How could I? It's Ida B. Wells. I'm sorry. She is a famous journalist who focused a lot of her work on connecting gender, race, and violence, and making it more of an issue of how it's interrelated. A lot of her work focuses on connecting those issues and how they're actually interrelated. A lot of it mainly around violence. And some of the issues that she focused on is earlier in connecting it with slavery. In 1940s and 1950s, you'll see a lot of traction gained from women of color and a lot of the civil rights movement. A lot of traction of women of color because of the civil rights movement focus on sexual assault. A lot of our voices is what gained traction because we weren't being heard. We weren't being seen. In 1944, Rosa Parks launched a nationwide campaign called the Committee for Equal Justice based around Recy Taylor's case. And what that case was about, in 1944, 6 men abducted and sexually assaulted Recy Taylor. The men threatened to kill her if she spoke out about what they did to her, but that didn't deter her from speaking up. It didn't deter her from reporting the assault, didn't deter her from going to the police. And she actually successfully identified the perpetrators. And believe it or not, they admitted to the crimes, they admitted to what they did, and they were not arrested. The case went before a grand jury, and they still were not indicted. What happened was the grand jury was full of white men, and those white men refused to indict them. So this created outrage, and unfortunately, they did not serve time for the rape and what they did to Recy. But what it did do was it propelled activism around sexual assault. And so in the 1970s, I know this is many years later, that's when social activism around the issue of sexual assault continued. And this is when you've seen progress around sexual assault. What you see in 1971, you'll see that's the first rape crisis center, which was founded in San Francisco. This is also where they had the very first Take Back the Night campaign, but the Take Back the Night didn't happen until later. You'll see that on another slide. But this is significant because having a place set up, an actual building where people could come and have an actual landmark location where women could gather and have resources available to them was a big thing. It was huge. 1978, that's when the very first Take Back the Night was held. Over 5,000 participants showed up and rallied and marched and took to the streets and were loud and made noise. And so you could no longer be silent about how big of an issue it was to be vocal about the assault that was happening to women all across the world. And 1992 was the year that Denim Day, which is what we have today for denim, became a big thing and became an actual trend. And Denim Day was, how it came about was an 18-year-old girl was taking a driving lesson course. It's an Italian case, so it didn't take place here in the States, but the trend became a United States trend, a big issue because the young girl was taking a driving course, and her driving instructor was a 45-year-old male, took advantage and raped her and abandoned her on an alley, and she had to find her own way home. Again, the instructor threatened to kill her if she spoke out about it. And undeterred by that, she reported it. And with this case, he was actually sentenced. He did serve jail time, but he appealed his case to the Italian Supreme Court. And when it got to the Italian Supreme Court, the Supreme Court actually overturned the lower court ruling and said that because the victim wore very, very tight jeans, that she had to assist the perpetrator in taking the jeans off. Therefore, she had to have consented to the sex. And therefore, it was the jean alibi, meaning that she could not have been raped. She had to have consented to it, and she participated in the intercourse that took place with her abuser. So he was released. And so the Italians were, the women in the Italian parliament were completely outraged by that verdict. And they launched an immediate action and protested by wearing jeans on the steps of the Italian parliament building. And this called action and motivated many people in California and across the world to assemble and do the same. And that is how Denim Day became a thing. And so that's why we celebrate Denim Day. The Pearls and Denim Day is just a different thing that we have added to it. But in 1994, President Bill Clinton signed the VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, into legislation. And this was the very first national law requiring law enforcement to treat gender violence as a crime instead of it being a private matter. And this is very significant because VAWA was designed to strengthen legal protections for victims of domestic violence and sexual violence as well. And it expanded services to survivors and their children. VAWA demonstrated the need for national coordinated efforts to advocate for sexual violence prevention. And while this was originally enacted in 1994 as Title IV of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, it addressed congressional concerns about violent crime and violence against women in particular in several ways. The act authorized grants to state, local, and tribal law enforcement entities to investigate and prosecute violent sex trafficking, violent crimes against women, and focus on domestic and dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and it had a focus on crimes on a federal level, and also enhanced sentencing for these types of offenses that weren't prior considered an issue before. So this is huge for women and for people who are victims of these type of offenses. The majority of the grant programs that were authorized by VAWA were administered by the Violence Against Women Act. And what I want to say about VAWA, this is kind of going forward a little bit, is that this act, it has to be reauthorized. It was reauthorized 4 times since the initial signing in 94. It was reauthorized in 2000, 2005, 2013, and then again recently in 2022. And when it gets reauthorized, what it does is it's just expanding the act and legislation a little bit more. And the expansion of it is just providing more protection, more prevention, more laws. It's just giving more basis of the law for us. And so one of the things that the 22 reauthorization did was it gave protection for tribal natives in Hawaii. And it also gave protection for like cyber crime, like things that weren't thought of in 94 that wasn't an issue, such as internet pictures and opening up old cold cases where sexual kits weren't tested. So those kinds of things that weren't considered in 1994 that we need to consider now are now being protected. So this piece of legislation was huge in 94, of course, but as it gets reauthorized and more grants are added to it, it's a very important. And in 1999, the first Denim Day was celebrated. And so as we continue with the timeline, in 2000, the National Sexual Violence Resource Center was established. And what that means is that there's a central location of information and resources about sexual violence through a collaboration of sharing and creating resources and providing research for advocates, state coalition, college campuses, and other community organizations that provides funding and time, which are often huge barriers in developing campaigns like these. or resources relating to awareness and prevention. So establishing a resource center like that was huge and a very important part in impacting change. And so this is the timeline of sexual assault and awareness, and how it's evolved over the years, and where we are today, and how we have access to providing programs like these about prevention and awareness. So we have come a long way. Of course, there's still a lot to do, but the next question is, what is sexual assault? We've done a lot about the timeline and how it's evolved, but what is it? That's the big question. Sexual assault can take on many different forms, and it can be defined in so many different ways based on your state, based on your location, federal laws. But one thing that will continue to remain the same is it is never the victim's fault. And generally speaking, sexual assault is an act that's performed without a person's consent. And it can be something as seemingly small as an unwanted touch, or something as very violent and as aggressive as rape. I do want to take some time to give you a more specific definition, because we don't, generally speaking, great, but specifically speaking, for those who are in Washington, that's where I practice law, that's where I'm from. The Washington law on just sexual assault is, it includes sexual contact with another person without or that exceeds that person's consent. And that is important because someone may be given consent and then they can take it away. So it's important to understand that it can't exceed their consent. And sexual contact includes an intentional touching of the intimate parts or another person's clothed or unclothed body, including but not limited to the mouth, neck, buttocks, anus, genitalia, or breasts, causing another person to touch their own or another's body in the manner described above, or any penetration, no matter how slight, the vagina or anus with the body part or object, or oral genitalia contact. I do want to touch on consent a little bit more. For the purpose of this, consent means that it's at the time of and throughout the sexual contact. There are words or conduct that reasonably communicate freely given agreement between or among the parties to engage in the sexual contact. In addition, consent cannot be obtained when force or threat is used to gain consent, and consent cannot be obtained where the respondent knew or reasonably should have known that the other person was incapacitated, or consent cannot be given or granted by a person who is under the statutory age of consent. It doesn't matter if the person under the age of consent is a willing participant. If they are under the age of consent, there is no consent. And so I also would like to give the definition for sexual assault for those of us who are in the military, because this is a military base. This is why I'm here in Japan. The Department of Defense defines sexual assault as intentional sexual contact characterized by use of force, threats, intimidation, or abuse of authority, or when the victim does not or cannot consent. Sexual contact includes rape, non-consensual sodomy, indecent assault, or attempts to commit these acts. And so now I would like to do a poll. So let's see if you guys, I know I gave you a lot of information, and I like to be interactive. If you can't tell, I'm a bubbly person. So I would like to get some engagement from our wonderful guests who are here today. So let's engage. My first poll question for you today. Let's see here. I can't tell if it launched. Did it launch? Okay. Sexual assault happens to only women. True or false?
False.
You go ahead and select it on the screen there. Just go ahead and press what you think it is on the screen, and it will capture, and you get to submit it. So that way I can keep your poll suggestions. So far, I've got 18 votes in. Let's see here. We got 22 of you guys, 22 participants, and 18 18 guests. And I will give you just another minute, not a full minute, just another few seconds. I'm gonna give you a 5-second countdown because I need to get my tongue wet. All right, I'm gonna close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, look at you guys. That is correct. That is false. I'm glad you guys answered that correctly. Not that it was a right or wrong. I mean, it's right or wrong, but it's okay if you would have thought a different answer because it's okay to not know. That's why this is available to you. This is to raise awareness. So that is correct. The true answer is that sexual assault can happen to anybody. It is not something that happens only to women. It happens to everyone. Anyone can be a victim of sexual assault. And actually, everyone is affected by sexual assault. Every 68 seconds, another American is sexually assaulted. And while these numbers have lessened over the years, we still have a long way to go. And intervention and prevention is still something each and every one of us need to be vigilant about to help combat and protect against. So these are just some statistics about how many people are victimized each year. And this is about inmates and children and the general public and military. And to be honest with you, this is just based off of the numbers that are reported. There's a lot of numbers out there of people who don't report. So, this is statistics on those that have reported. And this is considering, those that have been either prosecuted, reported, and documented. There's a lot of sexual assault that goes unknown. And so this is just the statistical data that we are able to capture. 81% of women and 43% of men experience some form of sexual harassment and or assault in their lifetime. So both men and women are reporting of being assaulted. It happens, unfortunately, which is one of the biggest problems that we have yet to navigate how to tackle and get down. These statistics are based on people between the age of 11 and 17. So these are youth, and these are youth that are school age between 11 and 17. About 1 in 4 male victims of completed or attempted rape experienced it first time between the ages of 11 and 17. And for women, it's between 1 in 3 women between the ages of 11 and 17. So these numbers are scary. You can be in a room of people and just think that a handful of you, children, 1 in 4 men, 1 in 3 women. So that is alarming. My second poll question. Don't you guys just love me? Interactive. Come on. Okay, let me go. Can you guys see it? Okay, sorry. Sexual assault can happen between intimate partners, acquaintances, and or strangers. True or false? I got 16 out of 22 participation, 18. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. 81% participation. All right. I'm gonna close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, this one was a tricky one. I tried to make it tricky for a reason, because this is often a question that I get actually quite often from my clients. So 94% of you said true and 6% of you said false. And this is why I put this question out there. The answer is actually true. And this is why people get stumped on this one, because a lot of my clients do not believe that sexual assault can happen between their partners. And this is why I put it out there. Sexual assault can happen between anybody. You are not the property of your partner. That means if you're married, if you're in a committed relationship, if you're in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, at any point in time, you do not have to have a sexual relationship, a sexual contact with someone if you say no. So if you do not give consent, consent is not given. So I say this because sexual assault can happen between an intimate partner, a coworker, a friend, a relative, or strangers. Sexual assault is not just something that happens between strangers. So this is why I put that in the slide, because it is something that when like I said, I'm a family law attorney. When I have clients come in, sometimes they will say that they had unwanted sexual sex with their partners, and they wonder if that is considered sexual assault. So just to answer the question, yes, that is considered sexual assault if it was not consensual. Over half of male victims report being raped by an acquaintance, and 15.1% by a stranger. 51.1% of female victims of rape reported being raped. Oops, I apologize. Reported being raped by an intimate partner, and 40.8% by an acquaintance. So these reports of being sexually assaulted by an intimate partner exists. It does in fact exist. So I know that was a tricky question for some. All right. And my very last poll question. Let's see here. You can tell I live for these. Let's see here. Did I launch it? Can you guys see it? Is it launched?
It is not.
Okay, just joking. Yes, it's question number 3.
That's question number 1.
Oh, back it on up. I apologize. One more time. Did it show this time?
No.
Still no?
No, I got it. There it goes.
Is there now?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. It's a little delay. I apologize. It should say there are a lot of false reports of sexual assault made. All right, we got about 66% participation. Come on, come on. I want a little more participation. At least give me 80% participation, guys. All right, we got 80%. Okay, I can close the poll. I'm gonna close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna share the results. We got 47% true and 53% false. All right. This was closer than I thought it was gonna be. Okay. Let me close this poll out properly. I didn't do that last time. I apologize. Okay, that was really close. The reality is there are false reports, but there are not a lot. There's between 2 and 10% of the reports made are false. And that is one of the most controversial disputes affecting the discourse related to violence against women. And that's the dispute is about the frequency of false allegations of sexual assault. The prevalence of false reporting of sexual assault crimes is low. And it, as you see, it's between 2% and 10%. And the reality is a lot of sexual assault goes unreported if it's reported at all. And of those that are reported, the amount of the reporting being false is very low. The problem, though, is it's scary that people do make false reports because what that does is it deters people who really are victims and survivors from making reports or from being believed when they do make the reports. And so the stigma behind reporting is already hard as it is. And so the fact that there are even false reports is challenging to overcome. And so the fact that there is even a percentage of false reporting is tough to overcome. But I do want to assure you that this number is low. And the stigma behind how many false reporting is always maximized because the amount of media that surrounds the false reports overshadows the amount of media of those that are real. So it's scary that there are false reporting, but that the poll shows that the belief behind how many false reports there are is real. And that's what creates such a negative impact on those who have real trauma and real stories behind the impact of their real assault. So just to reassure you, these statistics and numbers are fact-based. They are gathered. They take a large amount of reports and they compare the stories and the data behind the statistics. So 2 to 10% of false reporting is a low number. But the fact still remains that there are false reporting. Yeah, so the sad part is people are going to make false reports and it's a sad story. But the question now is, what can you do to help with preventing and being an advocate for people who are true survivors of sexual assault? The real thing is people are working really hard to erase the silence and shame that keeps sexual violence hidden, and are working within their communities to create positive social norms and policies to promote equity and safety. And it's a community effort. It really truly is. And you don't have to work in the field of sexual assault prevention to make a difference. We can all help prevent sexual violence by modeling and promoting healthy and positive relationships that are based on respect, safety, and equality. What we can do is get involved in efforts to support survivors. You can raise awareness about sexual violence by participating and being educating and doing things and activities such as this. You can work towards preventing sexual violence in your own personal life. As like I said, make sure that you are modeling and promoting healthy, positive relationships in your own relationships. Model that with your children, model that within your family, model that at the dinner table when you talk about healthy relationships. Make sure that when people say things that you believe are not healthy in their conversations around you, stand up for it, speak about it. Get involved in change laws and policies about the crimes and sexual violence and treatment of survivors. Be a policymaker. Be about the change. Don't just be silent when you hear about initiatives that you want to be involved in. Take action. Also, there's other ways that you can practice intervention. If you are ever in a situation where an active sexual assault is happening, or you find yourself in a potentially unsafe, harmful situation that requires you to intervene or interrupt a potentially harmful situation, there are ways that you can effectively be an active bystander without posing a risk to yourself. But this is also something that if you're comfortable with, I mean, you don't want to put yourself at risk of safety, but this is a way that you can practice intervention if you're in this situation. And one of those ways is by creating a distraction. You can create a distraction. The purpose of a distraction is to interrupt the incident. You want to do it in a safe way by communicating with the individual who is at risk, give them an opportunity to safely exit the potentially dangerous situation. Try creating a distraction as early as possible. This technique can be used to de-escalate the situation and redirect the attention of the aggressor or of the individual who's at risk. An example could be having a conversation with the individual. For example, you might create the conversation by saying, hey, this party is super whack. Let's get up out of here. Or, you know what, I'm hungry. Let's go get some pizza. I mean, those are really kind of like really low ways of doing it. But another way could be by creating a bigger, larger scale distraction, such as if you're at a party or a gathering and you're watching a game, you can distract them by focusing on the actual game. Oh my God, we don't have Sonics anymore. The Lakers are losing. They're getting their tails whipped. Oh my God, look at this score. Draw the attention to the focus of the party, which is the game. Or, oh, the song is on. Everybody to the Cupid shuffle. Like something to distract the attention away from the actual incident that is causing the risk or harm. But the main thing when creating distraction is to not leave the person who is at risk alone. Another way that you can be practice intervention is by asking directly. Ask the individual who is at risk to help determine if they need action taken. You can do this immediately to ensure that they're in a safe environment, but you want to address them away from the person who is causing the harm. You can say, hey, do you need help? Would you like me to stay with you? Do you need me to take you away from here? Do you need us to get you to safety? Make sure you're just asking it in a way that the perpetrator cannot hear you. The key is to de-escalate the situation, turning them away from crisis, not putting them into crisis by asking them in front of the perpetrator. You can ask them if they need support or assistance in that moment. If you need to get some authority to come over to them, they need someone to be contacted on their behalf. Just try to get them into some safety or emergency personnel. Another way is to rally the troops, get other people over, bring other people near them. It can be very intimidating to approach the situation alone if you're not as comfortable or confident to intervene or to be a bystander. Get other people around, bring people into the situation, bring people to support you. Ask someone to come with you. If you notice they came in with other people, you might want to go say, hey, I noticed the person you came with seems a little tipsy. They seem like they may have had too much to drink. You might want to go check on them. That's usually an easier approach, getting someone that came with them to come by. Or you might even just say, hey, go to the security guard. That person over there, they don't seem to be okay. I think you might need to go and check on them. It's okay to get other people of authority to come in and de-escalate the situation, especially if they seem to be in a risk-based situation. And if it seems to be like they're in imminent danger, the best intervention might be to call 911. I know when it comes to people of color, calling 911 is usually not an option, but please know that getting someone of authority or getting another person usually has to be used to de-escalate. Another way of practicing intervention is to extend support. After experiencing kind of a big risky situation, the individual may feel panicked, unsure, they're not aware of what to do next. So extending help or empathetic ear, just that alone can make a big difference. So offer support, offer them resources, ask them how you can support them. You can even say, hey, do you need me to walk you to your car? Do you need me to follow back up with you in a day or two? Is there anything that I can do to support you? Would you like resources, some guidance? Would you want me to follow up with it with you after the incident? Sometimes just letting them know that you're there, even if even if you didn't provide them any safety in that moment, letting them know you can provide them safety later, could give them reassurance. And lastly, another way is just being available. Whether or not you were able to change the outcome of that circumstance, stepping in and letting them know that you were there, and just being in a capacity of support, can make all the change in the world. So these are some ways that you can help. You can be intervention help for them. And so I just wanted to provide some extra quotes. You are not a victim for sharing your story. You are a survivor, setting the world on fire with your truth. And you never know who needs your light, your warmth, and your raging courage. I wanted these survivors to know that I believe them, I support them, and that this happened to me too. And then I will never understand why it's more shameful to be raped than to be a rapist. And now this last one is just a compilation of quotes from the Me Too movement. And that is all that I have for you today. I hope that I have provided some valuable information, maybe disband some stigmas that you may have had, and just giving you some, I don't know, resources and tools that may be helpful to you. At the bottom, there's some resources, some websites that you may utilize. Yeah, so I know I tried to get you out of here and not take too much of your evening or your lunch break, and I really truly appreciate you guys being here and available for this. um I am open for questions. I know that the chat has some questions. I couldn't look at it because I didn't want to get distracted, but I am here now. If you have any questions. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But feel free. Oh, I think I turned it so you guys can't unmute yourself because I didn't I didn't want to I didn't want to have to keep pressing the mute all button, but I turned that off. So if you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand and I can unmute you. I'm here for questions and answers if you have any. Thank you, thank you. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys got me blushing. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see you all on one screen because right now I got all these screens everywhere and I cannot. Yes, I see a hand raised. Yes, Miss Bell. Let me see if I can unmute you. Let me stop share. How do I get this off? There we go. Okay. Oh, look at, oh my goodness. I didn't know how many people were on here. Wow. Guys, oh man, okay, let me see participants. Okay. Yes, Miss Bell, let me unmute you. I tried to unmute you. Kathy, you're first, ma'am. Okay.
Oh, okay, there I go.
Yes, there you
Hi.
go. I hear you.
Hey, pretty lady. So I wanted to know if you could send the diagrams to me so that I can recall them again. I'm not tech savvy, so I don't know how to do that.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
I tried to download it, but it didn't work. So I just wanted to ask you that. And thank you so much for putting this on for everyone.
You are very welcome. And yes, I can send you these. I will make sure you
Okay.
get them.
All right. I'm gonna mute myself.
And yes, Miss Denise Daly, I just want everybody to know that this lady who's about to speak is looking ravishing in her royal blue. And she is also my mother, and she is fine like wine. Yes, she is. Okay. Yes, Miss Denise Daly. I can't hear you, Mom. Let me go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I couldn't unmute.
There you go. Yes.
Thank you, my daughter. Well, I want to thank you so much for putting on this awareness. It's really important. I really appreciate this, and it means a lot. And I would like to have information so I can forward to people that I know it can benefit from.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely will. I will make sure I give you this as well. I will make sure to send it.